Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant. Today I'm going to be covering this book, Shadowcat. The subtitle is Encountering the American Lion. It is edited by Susan Ewing and Elizabeth Grossman. It's labeled as a natural history book and as $16 when it was brand new. I bought this copy for $5 at Coes Books, and it looks like a previous owner wrote their name in the lower corner on the cover page there and wrote 2002. This book was published in 1999, and the cover photo is by George Lep Corbis. And the reason I wanted to share this book with you, and this one there is an actual reason for it, is that I was reviewing for next week's book, which I've been thinking long and hard a long time. I wanted to rant about next week's book, but I didn't want to do it without reviewing it first. And while reviewing it, a couple names came up that I've seen a lot in the books I read. The first is Alan Rabinowitz, who is a big name in feline research. From what I understand, he's big in mountain lion communities and in jaguar communities. And next week's book is about jaguars. And so Rabinowitz being involved with that one or being mentioned in it at all is something that caught my eye. And I was thinking about that one. I don't know that I've ever read any of Rabinowitz's works, but another name came up in that book, and that name is Werner Glenn. Werner Glenn is more a feline hunter, and strangely, he was willing to help with them because as a hunter, he doesn't want these creatures to be gone. And so Werner Glenn is a big name in mountain lion research. And so all the books I've read about mountain lions, his name comes up frequently. And the reason I picked this book is because a couple years ago I highlighted every single author who submitted or whose works are in this anthology. Shadowcat is a collection of essays, and it says that on the back cover, the list being Rick Bass, Chris Bolgiano, Barbara Dean, Jordan Fisher-Smith, Werner Glenn, Pam Houston, Verlyn Klinkenborg, Ellen Malloy, M. Kathy Nowak, Wayne Pacell, Diane Joseph E. Peavy, David Quammen, Harley G. Shaw, Annick Smith, Jeffrey Smith, E. Donald Thomas Jr., Elizabeth Marshall Thomas, Susan J. Twite, Ted Williams, Terry Tempest Williams. A lot of those names I've already read. So, looking at the table of contents, which I've highlighted those authors whose names I have read, the camera's not going to zoom in well enough to be able to show those names, but the highlighted names from the top to the bottom are Elizabeth Marshall Thomas, who I've ranted about one of her books already. Chris Bolgiano, I forget why, but I've read one of his books, I know that much. Terry Tempest Williams, who I've talked about on numerous occasions on this channel. Rick Bass, whose books I've ranted 2 or 3 of them. Jordan Fisher-Smith, who is the author of Nature Noir and was one of the earlier books I ranted about on this channel. David Quammen, another essayist, I've ranted about his books as well. Harley G. Shaw, he was the author of Stalking the Big Bird. He also wrote Soul Among Lions. And so a lot of these authors I've already read and talked about. And as I was looking at this list just now, I also see that Pam Houston is on this list. I'm reading her book, Deep Creek, right now. And so Shadowcat has a lot of great authors I love reading and love ranting about because their works are just pivotal and they're all over the place. There's quotes by Gary Snyder at the start of the introduction. So it has all of these influences, and it has all of these contributing authors. So it's just really impressive. Chris Bulgiano is the author of Mountain Lion, which I've already read and discussed on this channel. All of these authors talk very passionately about mountain lions, or very educatedly. They have a lot of experience with it. The example here, Looking for Abby's Lion, written by Pam Houston. So like Pam Houston in Looking for Abby's Lion, she talks about having fallen in love with Abby's writing and then come out west because she also wanted to see a mountain lion, not just see a mountain lion, because she does say that she could have lived down the street from the Bronx Zoo, but she wants to live in an area where they live and see one of them naturally rather than seeing one in its enclosure. The San Pedro lion, written by Warner Glenn, says that about 7 a.m. on a still cool morning, John Cook and I rode from the Malpai Ranch headquarters with a couple of John's friends, intending to show them a piece of Arizona's San Bernardino Valley. I've lived here all my life, ranching and guiding mountain lion hunts. And so he talks about this hunt and going all over the place with the sponsor of this trip, and how he brings his dogs out there and what a hunt actually looks like. He does clarify it's not just that he's hunting them to hunt them. In the end of the essay, he says, "Once in a while you find one that needs killing. The San Pedro lion needed to go. He had picked up some habits over his 7 or 8 years that were strange and not too good. He had lost his respect for and fear of people and had learned to live in close proximity to their dwellings. He had taken dogs out of doghouses, from porches, and off runs in people's yards. This could have turned into a dangerous situation had the opportunity presented itself. Imagine a small child playing in his or her yard late in the evening, and the tom lion just happening by and happening to be hungry. That would be terrible for the family and the child, and just as terrible for the cat, because it would paint an untrue picture of the mountain lion. I think we may have kept him from making a real bad name for himself." And that really reveals it. Right at the end, it is very clear Warner Glenn loves mountain lions, and he doesn't want them to have this bad image of a baby-eating, puppy-eating monster. So that attitude goes out with him on these hunts. The book as a whole is separated into different parts. The first is The Nature of the Beast, Natural History. That is what Elizabeth Marshall Thomas wrote in. Tales of the Cat, Encounters, which was where Chris Bulgiano, Terry Tempest Williams, Pam Houston, Warner Glenn, and Rick Bass wrote for their sections. Conflict and Controversy, The Politics of Predators, where Jordan Fisher-Smith, David Quammen, and Harley G. Shaw, their sections, their essays are. Now, Harley G. Shaw, who I've discussed his books, he was a Arizona Fish and Wildlife kind of guy. And so he's dealt with the politics of mountain lions very firsthand. Jordan Fisher-Smith also has. He was in California, and his contribution to this is an essay that has been published in several places, but notably was one of the chapters in Nature Noir. That one being about a woman that ended up missing in the area that he patrolled, and the search for her and the search for her killer, and it turned out that a mountain lion had killed her, and she was the first fatal attack by a mountain lion in a long time in California. And of course, that's one of those stories that Warner Glenn doesn't want to see his San Pedro lion become. And so it's just a fascinating story, all of these different authors coming together in this way. Jordan Fisher-Smith talks about Proposition 117, basically confirmed in California that there was a preference for cougars not being hunted. The new law created a habitat conservation fund for the purchase of wild land inhabited by cougars. Since much, maybe most of California is cougar habitat, this provided for the purchase of parks and reserves that in practice also protect all kinds of other wildlife that happen to cohabit them. He goes over that. Our retribution for the death of Barbara Schoner was swift. When I returned at 7 in the evening from picking up the body, I notified the Department of Fish and Game's dispatch office. They notified the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal Damage Control Service trappers. The following morning, I returned to the scene of the kill with 2 trappers and 3 Fish and Game wardens to begin the hunt. The dead lion was an 83-pound female. Barbara Schoner outweighed her by about 20 pounds. The lion's udders were full, which meant she had a cub. Over the next couple of days, the trappers went back out and found a kitten, which was displayed for the news cameras and then turned over to a zoo. It goes on that a forensic odontologist had matched the animal's teeth with impressions they left in Barbara Schoner's crushed skull. They had killed the right lion after DNA testing was also done to confirm this. And the way he writes, Barbara Schoner was the first fatal attack in over 100 years, but shortly thereafter, there was another woman that was killed, Marie Kenna. That was just in 1994, one in May and one in December. Including the 1994 fatalities of Barbara Schoner and Marie Kenna, there have been only 10 attacks by cougars on people in California since 1890. 2 of the attacks involved 2 victims each. 8 of the attacks have occurred since 1986. So there's a lot of really fascinating content in this book. If you do any reading about mountain lions, Shadowcat is a really great one, has a lot of great authors, a lot of perspectives on the creature and the issues that are involved with them. And I think if you find it, I would recommend picking it up. Like I said, I bought it for $5, which appears to be a third of the book's listed price. But if you find it new, it's still worth it. All of these authors are amazing, and more than half of them I've already read or am reading, and they're all good authors, they're all good writers, they're all wise people, and I think their content is just fascinating. And so, if you have any interest in mountain lions, this is an amazing book for you to buy. There are so many other stories in this that I didn't cover. So yeah, each of the sections has a introductory couple pages to describe it, and kind of in a thought-provoking way. So the third section, conflicts and controversy, the politics of predators, opening section closes with this paragraph. In the following pages, people of varying perspectives, including an animal rights activist, a hunter, a mountain lion researcher, a rancher, and the ranger who helped recover Barbara Schoner's body, explore their relationships to the mountain lion and to the places lions inhabit in their physical and emotional landscapes. Whether you're more likely to collect signatures for ballot initiatives or to run hounds, you're invited to join this hunt for understanding through its interesting tangle of conflicts. And I think that paragraph summarizes perfectly what I'm trying to say. If you are interested in mountain lions in any way, shape, or form, whether it's to find signatures for a ballot or for anything, this is a great book for you. And I think you're going to find something new to learn from it. So yeah, like I said earlier, it's worth the money I spent on it, and I'm sure if you are interested in this subject at all, it's going to be worth the money you spend on it as well. It is that good of a book. My name is Wild Stag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant.